Hello dear students, this is Vishal sir from Ikra High School. Today we are going to study chapter 7, Diversity in Living Organism from class 9 NCERT syllabus. Let's first read the lesson to understand it better. Have you ever thought of the multitude of life forms that surround us? Each organism is different from the other to a lesser or a greater extent. For instance, consider yourself and a friend. Are you both of the same height? Does your nose look exactly like your friend's nose? Is your hand span the same as your friend's? However, if we were to compare ourselves and our friends with a monkey, what would we say? Obviously, we and our friends have a lot in common when we compare ourselves with a monkey. But suppose we were to add a cow to the comparison. We would then think that the monkey has a lot more in common with us than with the cow. Here an activity is given, activity 7.1, where we have to compare about Desi cows and Jersey cows. They both are different, definitely they are different, but they are more common as they are both cows. In this activity, we have to decide which characteristics were more important in forming the desired category. Hence, we were also deciding which characteristic could be ignored. Now think of all the different forms in which life occurs on Earth. On one hand, we have a microscopic bacteria of a few micrometer in size, while on the other hand we have a blue whale and a redwood trees of California of approximately sizes of 30 meters and 100 meters respectively. Some pine trees live for thousands of years, while insects like mosquitoes die within a few days. Life also ranges from colorless or even transparent warm to brightly colored birds and flowers. This bewildering variety of life around us has evolved on the earth over millions of years. However, we do not have more than a tiny fraction of this time to try and understand all this living organism. So we cannot look at them one by one. Instead, we look for similarities among the organism, which will allow us to put them into different classes and then study different classes or groups as a whole. In order to make a relevant group to study the variety of life form, we need to decide which characteristics decides more fundamental differences among organism. This would create the main broad group of organism. Within these groups, smaller subgroups will be decided by less important characteristics. So dear students, today in this chapter, we are going to study the different life forms found on our earth. Also, how can we categorize all living beings into various categories according to their similarities and dissimilarities. We would study about organism from microscopic level to higher level organism. Also, we would study about organism from colorless to vivid color organisms. What is the basis of classification? Attempts at classifying living things into groups have been made since time immemorial. Greek thinker Aristotle classified animals according to whether they lived on land, in water, or in air. This is a very simple way of looking at life, but misleading too. For example, animals that live in the sea include coral, whales, octopuses, starfish, and sharks. We can immediately see that these are very different from each other in numerous ways. In fact, habitat is the only point that they share in common. This is not an appropriate way of making groups of organisms to study and think about. We therefore need to decide which characteristics to be used as a basis of making the broadest division. Then we will have to pick the next set of characteristics for making subgroups within these divisions. This process of classification within each group can then continue using new characteristics at each time. So dear students, while classifying, we would look upon the most fundamental differences so that the main broad group of organisms are classified. The initial stage of classification was based on living spheres of the organism, as Aristotle classified the organism according to the place they lived, that is on land, water, or air. This was said to be simple but confusing too, as the organisms just shared the habitat, not the habits to sustain life. Also, it was found that They were too different from each other. Before we go on, we need to think about what is meant by characteristics. When we are trying to classify a diverse group of organisms, we need to find ways in which some of them are similar enough to be thought of together. These ways, in fact, are detail of appearance or behavior, in other words, forms and functions. What we meant by characteristic is a particular feature or a particular function. That most of us have 5 fingers on each hand is thus a characteristics. That we can run but the banyan tree cannot is also a characteristic. Now, to understand how some characteristics are decided as being more fundamental than others, let us consider how a stone wall is built. The stones used will have different shapes and sizes. The stones at the top of the wall would not influence the choice of stones that come below them. On the other hand, the shapes and size of stone in the lowermost layer will decide the shape and size of the next layer and so on. The stone in the lowermost layer are like the characteristics that decide the broadest division among living organisms. They are independent of any other characteristics in their effect on the form and function of the organism. The characteristic in the next level would be dependent on the previous one and would decide the variety of the next level. In this way, we can build up a whole hierarchy of mutually related characteristics to be used for classification. Nowadays, we look at many interrelated characteristics starting from the nature of the cell in order to classify all living organisms. What are some concrete examples of such characteristics used for hierarchical classification? So, dear student, here we get an explanation that before classification, the characteristic of various organisms must be well defined. The more common characteristic, the more chances of the organism to be in the same group. Classification must start from broader perspective towards more specific characteristics available. This way, a hierarchy can be built up so that the organism can be grouped according to their most common similarity. It is also to be noted that while classifying, the classification of plant will be different from the classification of animals, as their basic body design is totally different. Classification and evolution. All living things are identified and categorized on the basis of their body design in form and function. Some characteristics are likely to make more wide-ranging changes in body design than others. There is a role of time in this as well. So once a certain body design comes into existence, it will shape the effect of all other subsequent design changes, simply because it already exists. In other words, characteristics that came into existence earlier are likely to be more basic than characteristics that have come into existence later. This means that the classification of life forms will be closely related to their evolution. Now, what is evolution? Most life forms that we see today have arisen by accumulation of changes in a body design that allow the organism possessing them to survive better. That is what we call evolution. Now, the talk of the evolution was initially made by Charles Darwin. He was the first to describe the idea of evolution in his book published in 1859. Topic of the book was the origin of species. When we connect this idea of evolution to classification, we will find some group of organisms which have ancient body design that have not changed very much. We will also find other group of organisms that have acquired a particular body design relatively recently. Those in the first group are frequently referred to as primitive or lower organism, while those in the second group are called advanced or higher organism. In reality, these terms are not quite correct since they do not properly relate to the differences. All that we can say is that some are older organism while some are younger. Since there is a possibility that complexity in design will increase over evolutionary time, it may not be wrong to say that older organisms are simpler while younger organisms are more complex. So, students, we came to know about what is evolution. Evolution is the accumulation of changes in the body design that allow the organism possessing them to survive better in the changing future environment. The environment is not going to remain the same. So, whenever the environment is going to change itself, the new organism has more capability to adapt to the changing environment, and that is due to the evolution. Now the question arises, how can one classify the organism that has gone through evolution? As it may seem different in the past than in the present. The dinosaurs are classified in reptiles group. How is that possible? Just think about crocodile. It is a reptile and also has a very long past. It was even present during the era when dinosaurs were present on the earth. So, the answer to the question that how can we classify an organism that has a prehistoric existence depends on the ancient body design it possessed. It is also to be noted that many organisms still exist in the ancient body design that they had, while many have acquired a modern body design recently. So we can classify the organism with primitive body design as lower organism and the organism which has acquired modern body design as the advanced or higher organism. The hierarchy of classification groups. Biologists such as Ernest Haeckel, Robert Whittaker and Carl Woese have tried to classify all living organisms into broad categories called kingdoms. The classification Whittaker proposed has 5 kingdoms: Monera, Protista, Fungi, Plantae, and Animalia, and is widely used. These groups are formed on the basis of their cell structure, mode and source of nutrition, and body organization. The modification was introduced by dividing Monera into Archaebacteria, and Eubacteria is also in use. Further, classification is done by naming the subgroups at various levels as given in the following scheme. As you can see, first comes the kingdom, then comes phylum for animals and division for plants. Also, on still further classifying it, it becomes into class, then order, family, genus, and the final one comes to species. Thus, by separating organisms on the basis of hierarchy of characteristic into smaller and smaller groups, we arrive at the basic unit of classification, which is a species. So what organism can be said to belong to the same species? Broadly, a species include all organisms that are similar enough to breed and perpetuate. The important characteristics of the 5 kingdom of Whittaker are as follows. So dear children, before we further go to the 5 kingdoms Whittaker had proposed, let's understand how the hierarchy of classification are made. As you can see here that the organisms are classified initially into groups with broader similarity and continues to group into organisms with similarity with the closest or narrowing the groups with the most common similarity and larger differences. Thus, concluding the classification finally into species, which includes all organisms that are similar enough to breed and perpetuate among themselves. The first classification made by Whittaker was Monera. These organisms do not have a well-defined nucleus or organelles, nor do any of them show multicellular body design. On the other hand, they show diversity based on many other characteristics. Some of them have cell walls while some do not. Of course, having or not having a cell wall has very different effect on body design here from having or not having a cell wall in multicellular organism. The mode of nutrition of organism in this group can either by synthesizing their own food or getting it from the environment. This group include bacteria, blue-green algae or cyanobacteria and mycoplasma. Some examples are given in figure 7.1. Protista. These group include many kind of unicellular eukaryotic organism. Some of these organisms use appendages such as hair like cilia or whip like flagella for moving around. Their mode of nutrition can be autotrophic or heterotrophic. Examples are unicellular algae, diatoms and protozoa. Fungi. These are heterotrophic eukaryotic organisms. Some of them use decaying organic material as food and are therefore called saprotrophs. Others acquire a living protoplasm of a host organism for food. They are called parasites. Many of them have the capacity to become multicellular organisms at certain stage in their lives. They have a cell wall made of a tough complex sugar called chitin. The examples are yeast, mold and mushrooms. Then there are some fungal species that has a mutual dependent relationship with blue-green algae, and such a relationship is called symbiosis. Those fungi lead a symbiotic life form with blue-green algae and thus they are called lichens. We have all seen lichens as slow-growing large colored patches on the bark of the tree. The last two kingdoms were Plantae and Animalia. In Plantae, these are multicellular eukaryotes with cell wall. They are autotroph and use chlorophyll for photosynthesis. Thus, all plants are included in this group. Since plants and animals are most visible form of the diversity of life around us, we will look at the subgroup in this category later. Animalia. These include all organisms which are multicellular eukaryotic without cell wall. They are heterotroph. Again, we will look at their subgroup a little later. So, dear students, now let us understand the characteristic of 5 kingdoms which Whittaker had described. In Monera, the organisms which were prokaryotic and unicellular were included. They may have possessed a cell wall, but that is totally different than the multicellular organism which possess cell wall. The examples you saw over here were bacteria, blue-green algae and mycoplasm. Now talking about Protista, here the organisms are unicellular but eukaryotic rather than the Monera which was prokaryotic. Monera did not have well-developed nucleus while Protista has a well-developed nucleus. They also have cilia or flagella for movement, while Monera mostly lacked the cilia or flagella. The third kingdom that Whittaker had proposed was fungus. Fungus are totally heterotrophic eukaryotic microorganisms. Mostly they are unicellular, but sometimes they evolve themselves into multicellular organisms. They are saprophyte. That means they consume decaying organic material for food. Some fungus are also parasite while some live a symbiotic life form. And the last two were Plantae and Animalia. Plantae, as we know, are multicellular eukaryotic organisms but with cell wall. They are mostly autotrophic, means they prepare their own food with the help of sunlight, while Animalia are also multicellular eukaryotic organism but without cell wall and are heterotrophs. That means they have to depend on other organisms for their food as they are unable to prepare their own food.